Okay. Evening, everyone. Good to have you on board. Thanks for joining this, our sixth AMA. We're just going to give another minute. There are quite a few people still arriving, so if you just hold on for another minute, then we'll get going. Okay, I see we're at 550 people and counting, going up nicely. So I think we can start, and anyone else coming in, that's fine as well. So yeah, welcome everyone. Good to have you all here. Good evening from my side and Nick. Some of you it's morning, midday, different time zones. So yeah, great to have all you here, and appreciate you taking time out to listen to myself and Nick, who I'll introduce in a moment. This is our sixth AMA. So the agenda, quite simple. I'll welcome Nick. He'll be presenting on the marketing side, and then we've got other discussions around the miners, update on that, beta testnet, early investor appreciation, vesting, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. So for now, I've disabled questions. As soon as we get to the Q&A, then I'll enable that, and then you guys can fire off with your questions. So just to kick off, I hope some of you are able to join us on Monday evening. Dr. Hurley presented another technical session. It was his second one. So the first time he presented on the DAG and how the DAG works technically. The second one on Monday was around EVM gas fees. Very interesting. They're both well worth listening to. They are in our YouTube channel. So please go ahead and listen to those. And the other AMAs are also in there as recordings as well. Just before I kick off, just one question that came out of that, which I thought was interesting and worth touching on for everyone, is there was a question around how do we compare with Casper? I mean, it's not directly relevant to anything I'm going through here, but it was an interesting question. So Casper has obviously, they launched very well. They've got a large market cap. They are an extremely impressive project. And the reason we're here is mostly because of their successes and what they've managed to achieve. They certainly set the gold standard for us. They are not necessarily a competitor of ours in that they deem themselves as like Bitcoin is digital gold. They call themselves digital silver. So that's more of a positioning that they use. And they're not EVM compatible, whereas we are. So there is a difference. But yeah, we look up to them in terms of what they've achieved. They currently state that they can do 10,000 transactions a second. We are certainly not there yet, but obviously we haven't launched, so we're quite far behind. We've got quite a bit of catching up to do. Our stated goal is that we'll, at live launch, we'll be 2,000 transactions per second or more. That's our goal. Over time, obviously, we want to start competing with them. So yeah, just hats off to them. They've certainly pioneered a space, and we are playing catch up to them. Anyway, that was a bit of a digression. I'm going to hand over to Nick, but before I do that, just to introduce him, Nick van den Berg. He is, and you might pick up from his accent, he's also South African. And we're in the office together, except not now because it's 9 o'clock in the evening. He joined us about a month and a half ago, partly on stealth as he finished off what he was busy with. He brings a lot of experience, and it's been a massive change to the business just the last month where he's been involved in terms of offloading, I would say, things that we were busy with, but we actually weren't doing anything because we just didn't have bandwidth. So he's come in and he's doing a whole bunch of things for us. You're going to see a whole lot of really great things happening. He's going to feedback what's already been done, his plans, etc. But yeah, Nick, great to have you on board. And he's obviously our CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. So Nick, over to you.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much for the warm Warm welcome, and for everybody that's tuned into this call, I see we've actually got an incredible number of attendees tonight. So warm welcome to everybody. As Anthony said, I'm Nick van der Berg, the incoming CMO for the BlockDAG project, and tonight I'm actually really going to take you through what we are putting in place from a marketing perspective to really look at the future. And as we roll out on our development roadmap, really dovetailing with product delivery is going to be a very exciting marketing initiative, and certainly looking at, how do we identify various goals that we would like to achieve from a marketing perspective, and what are those objectives, and how do we actually support this incredible initiative from what we're building in terms of the unbelievable blockchain layer 1 network. So without further ado, if we can just flick to my next slide, this really crystallizes the objectives and the goals that I'm looking to achieve over the coming months and years. Certainly, number one, it's around community growth and engagement. These AMAs are, a testament to that. As we build out the product roadmap, it's really going to be centered around communication to the community, and how do we actually engage directly with yourselves and help grow that community across the globe. We've seen incredible, brand awareness now through the various eventing. I'm going to touch on the Denver event that we just had recently, and very exciting. Also, some learnings from one of our first event sponsorships that took place recently now in Denver. I'm also going to roll out a few exciting new events that we are going to be participating in. There will be members of the BlockDAG community at these various events. So that's going to be an exciting component to look forward to. And then certainly it's around, obviously ensuring that we have adoption, not only from a protocol perspective, but also engagement through the community, adoption in the various products and services that we're going to be building out specifically within the DeFi space, and obviously the use of our network. Further to that, very exciting, something that is expanding on our existing legacy of various partnerships. And one of those happens to be Inter Milan. They are obviously an enormous football organization within the European region. And I want to show you how we're going to actually leverage those partnerships and look at various interactions and integrations with various other brands going forward into the future. And then finally, I think, which is quite key, and you saw that translate into the learning module around the thought leadership, the content, the recent unpacking of various gas fees, and the knowledge sharing. I think I'm very encouraged around what's going to be taking place from an academy point of view, without giving the game away, but we're in the process of launching an incredible academy that's going to really impart knowledge, and it really circles back to community growth, user adoption, obviously these partnerships that I've spoken to. If we flick through to the next slide, I think this is really going to give us a clearer understanding of how we're building out the narrative leading up to our TGE. I'm going to leave that to Anthony to unpack in a moment. But for me, it's really looking at, what are the various conferences that we can get involved in. I'm going to actually show you now several of these that we're going to be participating in, and how we're actually going to leave these conferences to the benefit of yourselves, and to help obviously grow the awareness around what we're doing here, which is very exciting. Further to that, if there are any developers on this call, I do urge you, we are participating in a number of hackathons. If you log on to the blockdag.network URL, and then under the ecosystem community, you can then go and navigate through to our upcoming hackathons that's going to be taking place. We have a number of incredible partnerships that we're leveraging there for these hackathons. And then further to that, there's going to be a few one-on-one developer events that we're going to be hosting around the various regions. From a community point of view, I think what is quite critical is that, we're going to be participating in a number of webinars and a number of workshops. So it's not only around a digital presence, but we're also looking to have physical presence within a number of these regions. And then finally, I think for me, which is very encouraging, is on the back of a number of these global events. So if you talk around the Denver event that's just taken place, if we look forward to some of the local events that we're going to be participating in within the African region, and then some exciting events on the horizon, it's around leveraging these partnerships and ensuring that we constantly are on the lookout for new opportunities centered around building out this ecosystem, which is BlockDAG, and looking forward to that. Next slide, if we look at that, certainly I think the very encouraging and exciting component is that it's really going to be around product-led marketing. And I think this is going to be a really incredible fundamental shift to the way that we see ourselves as an organization and the way that we're going to interact with yourselves as the community. So it's around looking at this incredible product roadmap. How do we actively get involved in, pushing out content that is showcasing the value that is being creating, not only from the layer 1 network perspective, but furthermore, in all of the utility from the D applications that we're going to be rolling out of the back of hackathons, partnerships, and obviously our own endeavors. We pride ourselves on thought leadership. A lot of the innovation that's coming out of this team is lending itself towards being thought leaders in this space. Obviously, with innovation comes awareness and the requirement for thought leadership. Certainly that then flicks into the next point around having a lot more video content. You're going to start seeing myself and the rest of the team putting on various webinars and video content that will be made available through our official channels. And then obviously it's about the community. It's about the community engagement. Noticed over the last month and a half, a lot of the early investors within this project have looked to go, well, how do we get more, generated content? How do we start participating? So we're going to have some outreach programs to start obviously engaging with the community to generate, that validation from the likes of yourselves. And then further to that, another point here is, disseminating that information within the right sources. So it's really been a challenge of mine to look at, taking up various journalistic organizations around the world and ensuring that our community outreach from a public relations perspective and a content point of view is then disseminated into the right areas. So exciting news ahead if we move to the next slide. Obviously, we've been looking at leveraging our relationship with Inter Milan, and I can say that there is an upcoming event. There's actually a few of these events, so a number of you that have been lucky enough to secure that opportunity. Not only are you going to be wearing the latest swag from BlockDAG, but there's a number of incredible tours and also engagement that you're going to have the fortune to be able to interact with the Inter Milan brand, as well as obviously a number of the players and also the various stadiums and the locker room tours. So that's something that's happening very soon. I think that's actually gearing up for next week already. I actually looked at the time, and it's, I guess that's in 10 days' time. So the first of 6 or 8 of those events is going to take place. So that's very encouraging. This obviously tightens the brand sponsorship that we have with Inter Milan. And further to that, it provides for an incredible content and validation of what we're building from a BlockDAG ecosystem perspective. If we click to the next slide, I think this is, something that I certainly cut my teeth on over the last month and a half. And yes, there was some learnings. We had roughly a delegation of around 42 individuals that frequented the ETH Denver event. And what we learned there is that, providing various swag items, linking to some form of competition, really required a bigger opportunity in the form of visibility and awareness. So we're taking those learnings through to a number of the other events that we're going to be participating in. And Anthony, I just wanted to know if you could just play a little bit of a hype video that I put together, just a showcase of what we did. I was very encouraged by this. Not only were we able to have a breakaway event sponsored with Deal for It, but further to that, we actually also had our own named drink at the bar, but you'll see all of that engagement that took place over the 24 hours of the sponsorship.
Open up your heart. To say.
So as you can see there, what was quite encouraging is that we extended this brand sponsorship further than just advertising within the event itself, but actually translated into having our positioning from our own branded DAG drink at the bar, and then further to that culminated in a number of participants at that evening. I think there was roughly around 528 participants in the evening that was able to unlock some value in the form of scanning QR codes and then standing a chance of earning a number of DAG tokens. So that was how we were able to extend, not only from a sponsorship perspective in terms of branding and awareness, but taking that directly into a product touch and feel. So we've learned some incredible lessons. Yes, that's going to obviously filter through going forward. So if we look at the next slide, what I'm encouraged about this partnership, it is just more than an event. Yes, it's based within the African landscape or continent, but what we're doing with Cape Connect is really an interesting one. We're going to have open panel discussions, and that's really bringing in the community, bringing in thought leadership and content. So at a series of these events, we're going to be having these panel discussions. It's going to really unpack the core of the innovation of what BlockDAG is bringing to the crypto environment. And then further to that, we're going to then have our own branded events that we're going to roll out into the continent. If we flick to the next slide, very encouraged by this. This is actually ETH Canal, and that is in Panama. For those of you that are within the region, I'd urge you to make your way to Panama to attend the event. And here it's really going to be centered around a incredible branded experience, branded presence from our perspective. Anthony and myself will be attending the event, and actually what I can say, which is quite a lot of fun, is that we're going to be having a daily vlog of 15 to 30 minutes at the event. So we're going to be interviewing various speakers. We're going to be interviewing various participants during the course of those 3 to 4 days. So there's a lot that we're going to be doing within ETH Canal. And further to that, we're really going to tie that back to participation, the engagement with some global leaders from a business perspective. And then further to that, really highlighting the value that we're bringing from a BlockDAG perspective to the community. So Anthony and myself, as I've just said, we're going to be on the ground, actively participating in the various events, engaging with all of the incredible, Web3 blockchain leaders from various other different organizations from around the world. But more importantly, we're going to be doing this whole vlog series at the event itself. So just really highlight and give you some behind the scenes insights into what's happening within the crypto space as a whole. So I'm very encouraged by that. That's coming up due on the close end of next month. So we'll make sure that you get those calendar invites to tune into those vlog sessions as we are on the ground. The next slide then talks to what we're doing from a roll-up event perspective. Here we have a perfect example. We're also going to be in Dubai, and that's really going to start the narrative of the awareness gearing up to our TGE listing event coming over in the later months. So I'm going to let Anthony obviously talk to that in a minute, but here we have a perfect opportunity not only to look at participating in breakaway events, but actually have BlockDAG representation, on the ground. And then further to that, we're able to grow out with a larger community. So we're going to have a relatively large presence at Token 2049 in Dubai. So I'm really looking forward to that. The last slide from a marketing perspective is really the culmination of, these various events, and that is going to take place at Token 49 in Singapore. So that is going to really be the penultimate showcase of BlockDAG from a technology perspective, as well as obviously have an incredible presence at this penultimate event that's going to be taking place later in the year. So that's where we're at from a marketing point of view. As I've said, it's really around engaging the community, building out this community growth, looking in the brand awareness through the eventing strategy that we've put together, building out user adoption, acquisition through the product marketing initiatives that we're going to be putting into place. I know a little later we're going to be talking around the incredible testnet launch that's imminently taking place within the next few days. And then further to that, it's really around these partnerships, various eventing integrations. We're going to have content and thought leadership. So that's it from me. Very short and sweet. You'll be hearing a lot more from me over the coming months and years. I'm very, very excited about this opportunity. So thank you, Anthony, for the warm welcome, and looking forward to the rest of the AMA.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Nick. What I have realized is I think you're going to have a lot more fun than me. You get to talk about all the fun stuff, and I get to talk about some of the more challenging things. But anyway, so be it. But yeah, I think everyone has been on this journey with us from the beginning or from a period. I mean, the one thing we haven't really covered much of was the marketing side in previous presentations or previous AMAs, and that's because we didn't really have a lot to cover. So I think, it's fabulous having Nick here. I think it gives you a good sense of where we're going. We've got a lot of good stuff planned. As you mentioned, Singapore's our coming out party, because that's going to be close to our listing. I know everyone wants to know when we're listing. There've been quite a few, if you want to call it, signals that we've given in terms of when it's going to be. So I think a lot of you can sort of guess roughly when that's planned. But yeah, so Singapore's going to be a big thing for us. We're going to make a big splash there. So yeah, it'd be great to have as many BlockDAG supporters there as possible, and we'll certainly make sure that we'll have swag there so everyone can proudly walk around with t-shirts and hats and anything else that we might provide. I did need to ask Nick, what is in the DAG drink? You muted?
I was muted there. We actually named the old fashioned. So we turned the old fashioned into a DAG, which was pretty cool. So I just thought that was a nice touch, showed how we were able to just extend, the brand sponsorship a little bit further into something that was physical and delightful. So they kindly allowed us to rename an old fashioned. And I know for those of you that do partake in alcohol, that was quite a unique opportunity there to rename one of, a global brand of itself. Of called an old-fashioned. So.
Okay, thanks, Nick. And you all realize, obviously, the ice cubes in there are synonymous with BlockDAG as well. So all works very nicely.
Very much. We got them to create square ice blocks, so it was really cool.
Okay, great. Okay, moving on. So one of the ongoing questions, which I think I've answered many times, and the answers unfortunately do change every time I answer them, and it's not that dissimilar this time, is the miners, the mining side. So starting with the small miner, the X10, just a recap, because there's been different sort of things talked about over time, just a recap to say what it is and how it's going to work. It is a proof of engagement, not an ASIC miner. So it's not actually contributing to the network consensus, but it's therefore to show that you're engaging with us. It will start mining at the TGE, so when we go live. It does need to be paired with the X1 mobile miner once off. Once it's been paired, as long as it's Wi-Fi connected, it will carry on working. So it's not that you need to pair all the time for it to work. So I think that was an important question people wanted to know. Once they've paired, can it just mine sort of in the background? You will still need to activate daily, and that's because it is an engagement miner. It doesn't make any sense if you can just leave it in your cupboard and it mines forever. So you will need to every day, just like you do with the X1, you'll have to tap it or click it or whatever we do that might be different, but it'll be a daily engagement, and that'll make sure that you are mining. It will initially mine 200 BDAG per day, which was, as we stated on the website. Obviously, it can't mine like that forever into infinity, and that was never the intention. So instead of putting in some sort of arbitrary linear reduction or anything like that, what we've done is we've said it'll reduce based on the network difficulty. So if you look at a physical miner, an ASIC miner that actually mines the network, as the network difficulty becomes higher, the amount that those miners mine reduces. So this will follow that exact same process in proportion. So bear in mind, over time it will drop off, and that the speed it drops off will depend on mainly how many other miners are jumping in and mining the network. Nope, we seem to be stuck. Okay, sorry, my PC hung for a moment. So from a timing perspective, we are behind where we should have been. At a stage, we were hoping to buy, when it was considered an ASIC miner, we thought we'd be buying a small miner. That's not the case, so we've had to effectively building it from scratch. We have a first prototype that's working, that's completed. We have a second prototype which will include all the changes around the X1 for the two to work together, and that'll be more of a full prototype with a case and everything else, and that's due in 3 weeks. Mass production and delivery is estimated for 3 months. It's further out than we had hoped, had expected. Obviously, bear in mind, you can't mine before the TGE anyway, or the listing. So as much as you're very keen to get these miners, you can't do a whole lot until we actually list. So we're going to get it to you as soon as we can. That's sort of the best I can promise at this stage. Okay, moving on to, so the X30 and the X100. In the AMA last time, I was very excited because we had solved the issue. We talked about delivering miners to about 100 people as sort of an initial test case, early adopters, etc., who were going to help us test it on the network. Everything was coming together. The specs were what we were hoping on. The actual manufacturer, and I won't mention names, although I have in the past, the manufacturer was one of the best ones. So we had a great brand that we were working with. So it was all really coming together. Last minute, literally last week, they came back to us and said the X100 is going to cost 3 times as much as we had initially anticipated. They also came back and said the X30 actually doesn't exist yet, so that they still have to build, and that would only be available virtually at the end of the year. We'd covered both of these in previous conversations. They'd given us assurances on everything. So this was really a complete about face in terms of the discussions we had with them. So where we sit right now is, thankfully, as part of the process, we started with 4 different alternatives in terms of manufacturers. We removed one quite quickly. They couldn't do it. We removed another one who didn't seem like they were up to the challenge, and we had 2. We then picked the biggest of the 2. It looks like now we need to go back, and we have gone back to the second choice, who is as good a brand, not as big, but very happy to work with them. Their pricing meets us exactly. Their specs are great. Their delivery is good. A couple of other small things which are actually better than the other guys. Obviously, the downside is now we're starting again. I mean, with the previous manufacturer, we've done all our engineering testing. We've made changes to work with them. We're sort of back to square one a bit with these guys, with a new provider. So we're on a 4-week, we're trying to compress it, but 4 weeks for engineering prototypes. We're still planning to ship 100 units. It's not going to be this quarter. I won't even give you a date now because we're waiting for them to confirm that. But we really are scrambling, starting not from scratch, but certainly we're back to where we were probably 2 months ago. Very frustrating. Yeah, I mean, the whole procurement of miners has been frustrating from the beginning, and this is just another big setback. So again, all I can say is it's largely out of our hands. We apologize for this. We want to get these miners to everyone as soon as they can. Again, bear in mind that they're not useful until the launch event. So no one is worse off financially, but I know everyone's very keen to get their miners. We should have the specs quite soon because people are asking for at least to know the specs so they can start planning for that. So that'll come out probably in the next 2 weeks, I hope, once we've done some level of testing. But yeah, as soon as we can, we're going to get them out, but we really we've taken a sort of a massive 2-month leap backwards. Onto the good stuff now. So beta testnet is coming. We had the alpha in, I think it was October last year. It went fine. There was nothing particularly exciting about it, and we didn't really make a big thing out of it because it was more for our internal use. We did have, I don't know the numbers, 200-300 nodes that our community spun up and were running and were mining off. So we had quite a bit of interaction, but it wasn't a big thing for us. This one we're putting a lot more effort into. So I'm very excited about this. It's more of a showcase, and it's something we're proud of. So just some details around it, and I know Jeremy spoke about it last time in the last AMA, but it is a completely new network, as in whatever tokens you had accumulated or transferred or whatever, that'll all be lost. So we're effectively starting from scratch. So the balances will be no longer any smart contracts that we or anyone else uploaded also will disappear. I think it's going to be on a different set of credentials. Actually, I'm pretty sure it is. So you'll have to connect to through different credentials. For instance, when your wallet connects, it'll be seen as a different network. And then within a couple of weeks, the previous alpha testnet will then be retired. Anyone who's been running nodes, and we certainly appreciate that, the nodes will have to be reinstalled on the new network. The good news is we've worked quite a bit on the documentation, so node installation should be a lot simpler. We've worked out some of the issues with installation, so it should be a lot more bulletproof. So we very, very much hope that whoever has a node, install it again, get it running, start mining. Anyone who hasn't and who is keen, certainly dive in. We'd love to have you running your node. So yeah, very keen on that. In the Explorer, there is a world view which shows all the mining nodes. So let's hope that in the next month or so, we can look at that and we can have dots all around the globe. That'll certainly be very exciting for us to see that. It is faster. I won't say how much because we've doing some benchmarking at the moment, but we'll let you know what our target is. A lot of the changes that you would see actually relate to the Explorer. There were things that other explorers on other chains have that we didn't. So there's contract visualization, there's Node Explorer, there's contract verification, there's token views. So there's quite a bit around the Explorer. Bear in mind, unfortunately, these are still testnet tokens, so they aren't worth anything. You can't migrate them to the final to our final live net either. The other thing we're doing very differently, and this is really to now start getting you guys to start engaging with the network. I know previously you could, through the faucet, you could give yourself some tokens and transfer it. Not particularly exciting. What we're doing now is we are doing an airdrop of 10,000 tokens to every investor, so 110,000 people. So it's also now a test of our smart contract, our vesting contract, of the process of getting that into the smart contract. It's effectively a mini test of our final launch process. We're doing it in an accelerated way. So instead of you being locked up, so you get 40% initially, then 20%, 20%, 20% per month. We're speeding that up, so there's a little bit more excitement. So you'll get 40% of those immediately, then you'll get 20% per week. There's also going to be a simple UI where you can see what you've got and what you are still due. So please, once we've launched, go and have a look. You should have 10,000 sitting there, and they will start vesting as time progresses on. So I think that's pretty cool. And as I said, it's a good test of the process we need to go through at launch. The other thing is, and it's not super, if you want to call it, advanced, and there's better ways of doing this, and we'll probably improve it for the next testnet launch. But we have put some basic incentives in place. They're quite simple. The top 10 most active wallets, the top 10 miners in terms of who's mined the most coins, the top largest wallet balances, all of those will get $2,000 worth of BDAG, not spread amongst them, but 30 times 2,000 for all those 30 winners. It's, as I said, it's quite simple, but at least we're encouraging activity, and at least the miners, if you're out there, some of you will get a nice little bonus at the end. So we look forward to that. Full details of the testnet will be launched. More details of the dApps that we've got, details around the incentives, and for instance, when it finishes, when the competition finishes, and any other sort of terms around that we'll release as well. But that's just the sort of a high level, if you want to call it, what to look forward to. Very, very excited about that. This is sort of our first real launch of the chain that we're actively promoting in a big way. So now we get on to BDAGs, and apologies, the slides got a little bit messed up as they were imported into this platform. So one thing that's been a bit of a buzz for quite a while is obviously the bonuses that we've been giving, and the fact that early investors feel that they were, if you want to call it, marginalized. They bought into the project early. They showed a lot of grit in terms of investing, and we probably didn't really show our appreciation for them. So this is us saying, well, let's put something in place which shows that we appreciated what they do, the risk they took, the commitment they've shown to us. So a lot of community members sent through ideas around this, because in the last AMA I mentioned that we're going to do this. I looked at a lot of those. I didn't respond to them because I had probably literally 15 different ones, quite complicated, some quite simple, but some good ideas. So thanks for those. What we've settled on is something that I believe is simple to execute on. It's fair. It achieves what we're trying to. And it doesn't mean that we have to go back and define who's an early investor, who's a middle investor, who's not, etc. So let me just talk you through it. You've probably all immediately read through all the good parts. So I've lost the benefit of being able to say how happy I am to give everyone a big bonus. But anyway, here it is. So we're going to give everyone on all purchases a bonus of 150%. It's not 400% that some people were hoping on, and that's just because we have a certain number of tokens. We have to make sure that we use them wisely. 150% paid on all transactions, excluding any bonus that's already been paid. And I put these effective scenarios down below just so that everyone's quite clear what they could or may get. So for someone who bought and didn't get a bonus, and this applies to most of the early investors, you'll get a full 150% bonus. So that really favors the early investors. For anyone who bought after, and I can't remember the date, but when the bonuses started happening, let's say you got a 50% bonus or 100% bonus in this example, you will then get another 50% on top of that. So it tops you up to 150. If you bought later and you got a bonus of anything above 150, then you effectively won't get a bonus. The other thing is we've got a lot of people who came through saying, I did apply the bonus code and I didn't get it, or I forgot to, or a whole lot of permutations of those. And it was quite difficult because people spent the money, they were expecting it, and then they just didn't get it for whatever reason. We didn't give them the bonuses because they technically didn't get them or hadn't earned them. But this is also the nice sort of side effect of what we're doing here is if you didn't get that bonus, you will get this bonus. It's not possibly what you were hoping on, but yeah, it's 150, which you hadn't got before. So you guys just happen to get that as a side effect of this whole process. So yeah, I mean, we've modeled it a lot. I think it's a good attempt to show how much we do appreciate the early investors. We can't really go more than this. We need to be prudent, but this is our way of saying thanks for being there in the beginning. Thanks for committing to us. Thanks for sticking with us. And I hope that this gives you a little bit of a positive feeling about the project now, because some of you have felt unhappy that you were left behind. So yeah, we thank you and we hope that you invest more. And if you don't, we're still happy that you're with us till the end. The timing of how we apply this, we need to just look at, because there's a fair bit of work. We've got, as I said, 110,000 investors with lots of different investments. I think the average is over 2 investments per person, and we need to apply it quite carefully. So it'll take a bit of time, but it will be applied and we'll let you know. Moving on. So obviously what's important is the bonuses they've served a purpose, and there've been questions around, so why were we doing them? We had our own targets we were trying to meet. I know, so maybe it's taking a step back. Initially, when the project launched, there was a target of 600 million, but there was no end in sight. So we were going to run the project till we hit that. That was, well, it would have taken too long. It doesn't make sense to launch next year. You never know what next year brings. So we decided to rather announce that we are launching this year. So obviously the 600 is no longer a target. The bonus has served a purpose in terms of keeping activity, keeping the buying momentum going. But we do recognize we're going into a new phase of the project. We're about to launch our new testnet. Next on board with all these new marketing things. We're putting a lot of effort into that. People are going to start seeing the value that we knew we were building, but wasn't really apparent. And that's just because we weren't doing a good job of showing you. So we're really going to take a step back and say, well, now what we have to do correctly is we have to show you and anyone else why they should buy into us and why they should hold the token up until launch and after launch. And the crucial thing here is it's not just about getting to launch, it's about getting to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years after launch. It needs to be a sustainable project. And the bonuses do compromise that. Having said that, we've got a massive investor base. So, I mean, we've set ourselves ahead of any other project in the space in terms of what we've achieved. So we're very proud of that. But this sort of takes us into the next phase. So, I mean, just going through what's on the slide, obviously the bonus is at 400% at the moment, and that's going to be up until the testnet. And that testnet then becomes sort of a crucial changeover for a lot of things. After that, there won't be any bonuses. So we're not going to reduce them. We're not going to sort of play with other scenarios. We're going to remove all bonuses. There is a caveat, and I just put in there because at launch we will possibly, and I'm not saying we will, but we will possibly use bonuses as mechanisms to sort of get to the final numbers that we're trying to achieve. So we'll make those decisions up to launch, but they're not going to be massive. But that'll be sort of right at and before launch. Through this period now, we will use other mechanisms to incentivize people, but it's going to be things like swag. We actually haven't touched on it. I'll mention in a moment the credit card that we seem to be progressing now well with a couple of vendors that can do it for us. So things like better type of card or better fees on the card. So we'll bring in those sorts of things as incentives as opposed to just throwing big bonuses out there. So I think, everyone has been calling for this for a while. So I'm very happy to be able to announce this. And it fits in with all the changes that are happening. And Nick's smiling because I know he's keen to move forward and start being able to showcase why we should be invested in, and not because we're offering bonuses, but because we're offering a long-term sustainable project that is going to attribute value and is going to grow and is worth investing in. So moving on, the last thing is there have been quite a bit of talk and questions around vesting. And a lot of it's been linked to the tap miner. So again, everyone's probably immediately read through everything and they're back to the bottom or at the bottom, but I'll start from the beginning. So pre-sale tokens, nothing changes there. It's on our website. It's a 40% immediate vesting at TGE, which is obviously the launch date. So you'll get 40% and then 20% per month for the next 3 months, and that gets you your 100% airdrop to your wallet. The pre-sale bonuses, we've obviously dished out a lot of bonuses. We're now adding another 150% to a lot of purchases as well. So there are a lot of bonuses floating out. I think what's important to stress is that the choices we make and the decisions that are made are deliberated considerably amongst the team. We don't take them lightly. And that's sometimes why we don't necessarily announce things as quickly as we'd hoped to. I know a month ago I said I would announce these sort of things in 2 weeks. That was a month ago, but it took longer because we want to do this right. And things like vesting and bonuses, they all play into long-term sustainability of the project. One of the biggest issues with projects is as they launch, there's always selling pressure. That's natural. A lot of people have invested. Some people want to cash in some of their tokens, all of their tokens. We hope you don't, but that's the reality. That happens to every project, and most projects go through a bit of a dip. Obviously, the more tokens out there, the more potential for that dip to be worse, because as more people sell, it potentially damages the price for a while until it recovers. So the way we counter that is obviously we do more marketing, we do more promotions, we give you reasons to hold for longer. We introduce staking or pseudo-staking, which I mentioned last time. I won't go into it, but there will be staking available shortly before launch. So all of these things help us encourage you to hold on to your token longer. The other thing is obviously we need to list on multiple exchanges, good exchanges that promote our token to their ecosystem. So there we create buying pressure, and that offsets all of the selling. So there's a lot of things that we need to do right. And if you get that all right, then we can sell through the listing very smoothly. If we've got too many tokens out there and too many sellers, that can really detract from that and makes it a lot more difficult. So we need to be pragmatic. And the pragmatic thing is, if you bought your tokens, you get your tokens mostly at launch or just after. If you've been given tokens or you've tapped your way through tokens without really any cost to you, then we need to delay that. So pre-sale bonus tokens, all of them, the 400, the 300, the 200, and this 150 that we're now introducing, those will all be locked up for 1 year, and then they will vest linearly over 12 months. So every month there will be an additional vesting. So at the end of the 2 years, you'll have your full allocation of tokens. The X1 miner tokens is exactly the same. There's not a huge amount. The X1 has served us very well. It's worked well to incentivize people to grow their network, to bring in new people, etc. So that's also going to be locked up for 1 year, and then linear vesting as well for 12 months. The tap miner, a lot of you would have noticed or are quite aware that obviously there's been a large number of tokens that have been earned through that. Not so much the tap game itself, but the lottery or the spinning wheel and the spinning blocks and various other things. I won't go into why that's the case and how we got there, but suffice to say it's a significant amount and we need a way to obviously soften the blow. So what we've looked at, and this took quite a bit of discussion internally, because we looked at various ways of softening that to the community, because again, we don't want to compromise the project just because of a tap miner. The tap miner is really a peripheral. It has been fairly useful. It's brought people in, but really that can't dictate and compromise the long-term sustainability of the project, and it certainly can't compromise everyone's investment that they've made into BlockDAG. So in terms of this, we've taken quite a tougher stance on it, and we've needed to. There's been a lot given away, so everyone's been very fortunate without spending much money at all, or in most cases, no money at all. That'll be locked up for 5 years, and then there'll be linear vesting over 3 years, again monthly. What we do recognize is that a lot of people, they'll say, well, that's certainly in crypto space, it's an eternity. I can hear everyone thinking that as I'm sitting here. So what we are considering, and we will come back to everyone with, is an early vesting mechanism, something closer to the X1 miner tokens, where you have a choice. You can either lock up for 5 years and get your full complement, or you can get a smaller complement, but vesting sooner. We'll announce that. So suffice to say, if you can, before everyone gets sort of gets all excited about the whole thing, I think let us announce that. And then based on that, plus the 5 years, it'll give you a decision to make. And I think that's sort of the full picture. I've only really given you half, but I did feel we needed to answer the fact that these will be locked up for a significant time, because it's a significant number of tokens. And I think that covers everything. The last thing which I did mention was the credit card. It's been on our website right from the beginning. I think it's a fantastic idea. I'm busy using another party. I won't say who, but it's a Hong Kong crypto credit card provider, and it's changed the way I spend my crypto. Before, crypto was awkward. You could only really buy from people who were in a similar boat. Now I've got my credit card. It's linked through Apple Pay. I can tap anywhere. I can buy anything, and it's all comes straight off my crypto wallet. It's fantastic. So we absolutely are very keen to roll this out. It's proven a lot more challenging. There's licensing considerations. The tech side is not that simple. So we've taken a while to find vendors. We've got 3 potentials that can help us with this. We're hoping that out of the 3, 1 will definitely do it for us. And certainly I'm very keen to get this in. It's going to take a while. Credit cards also have to be approved by Visa and MasterCard, so that adds to the whole thing. So it's going to be, we could potentially have an interim release with non-branded cards, and then go for the branded cards and the more complete solution. That'll take a bit longer. But yeah, suffice to say that's the plan. And we also would like to link it to BlockDAG in terms of certain holdings, whether you're a whale or depending on certain scenarios, you'll qualify for different types of cards with different spending limits and different fees, etc. So it'll be used by us to also encourage investment in other activities as well. So I think that's very exciting, and hopefully we'll quite soon be able to announce more details around that, and even a prospective date. That takes me to the end of my presentation. We have Q&A now. I just want to check if Nick wants to mention anything else before we go straight into Q&A.
No, not at all. I think just really looking forward to the rollout of these various events, Anthony, and it's very encouraging that we're moving into a world where we're delivering from a product perspective, and further to that, obviously going to break new ground with marketing around the value and why this is a long-term sustainable business. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Okay, so we've got quite a few questions coming through. Nick's new to the platform, so I'm just going to start, and then Nick, you can also just answer ones that you pick up on. There is a question off the bat, interesting one. 5 years vesting for the tap game is fine, but is the team also going to lock up their tokens for 5 years? Yeah, but basically that. So the short answer is no, we hadn't planned on, and we're not going to extend our lockup. We need to be incentivized. I mean, it's a big project. There's a lot that needs to be done, and it doesn't make sense to. Nick, am I still there, or have you lost me?
You're there. You went dark. Your screen went dark. That's about it.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, so we're not going to change that. I mean, it's not necessarily just about me. It's about a broader team that needs to be incentivized. Bear in mind also, we have an allocation of 1%. I mean, that's the smallest I've seen in probably any project. Not that I've looked at all of them, but I'm very certain that you would battle to find another project which has such a small allocation. Sorry, I'm just going to answer a couple and then I'll hand over to you, Nick. There was a question on the Certic audit. It has gone blank off their website. It is an issue that they acknowledge. I was hoping they'd have it back up before the AMA. I haven't checked just yet. They acknowledge that it's a problem and they're trying to sort it out. I would hope that it's back up tomorrow morning. I'm sure you'll all look at it, but it's that simple. There's nothing nefarious about that.
I'll pick up on one of those questions here. I think great question. Actually, it's pointing to various sectors within industries. And I think the key here is that, we obviously want to look at a lot of the core decentralized web experiences or web applications, and I think that's going to really lead the charge. So obviously you've got to have an environment or ecosystem that is certainly catering for a majority of some of the leading key applications that are out there in the market at the moment. But value, whoever that individual is, to reach out to myself or to one or two other members of the team and unpack that further. So great question. I think firstly, starting off with what are the various sectors that are leading the charge from a decentralized application perspective, but more importantly, love to get involved in not only on the consumer-facing application front, and also we're certainly going to be looking at enterprise solutions and other strategic opportunities that add value to yourselves, the ecosystem, and the network.
Okay, thanks, Nick. I managed to get my screen back up and running. Does lockup start on the date of launch? Yes, that's correct. So that's when the lockup would start. We did look at other permutations when we were looking at bonus, for instance, saying, well, do we consider that people have been staking their tokens, etc., and pay some sort of pseudo staking reward? But again, we chose a simple one, 150%, and I think we believe is the right solution.
I'll pick up here on this just there's 3-4 questions that I'd love to pick up on. Number one, what is actually in the pipeline, just on the swag, is that we're actually looking at a global provider. So that means that we're going to actually have a dedicated store, Anthony, which is quite exciting. So, not only are you able to then purchase swag, on your own bat, but you're also, will stand a chance, various competitions, Anthony said earlier, offering swag for participation and, various other components. So look forward to that. And then finally, yes, if anyone is at ETH Canal, we're definitely going to have a look at, sponsorship breakaway events. If you are there, that individual, sorry, please just hit me up through official channels, and gladly entertain meeting up and or participation in some of the events that we are sponsoring.
Great, thanks, Nick. There's a question. There is a BlockDAG token on Uniswap. Is it legit? Absolutely not. So we haven't launched yet. So anywhere where you see a token called BlockDAG, it's certainly not ours. There's no token on any chain that's ours. When we launch, that'll be the first incarnation of our token on a chain. More broadly than that, there are a lot of people, unfortunately, because we're a high-profile project with lots of investors, there's a lot of people trying to create confusion, fraudsters trying to scam people. We have people on an ongoing basis who get duped into sharing too much information, etc., get persuaded to share secret phrases, go to alternate websites, etc. So everyone needs to be extremely careful. Make sure you're on blockdag.network, and don't interact with anyone who direct messages you. That's the key, and we keep saying it again and again. Just do not interact with anyone. They will sweet talk you. They'll offer to help you. They'll offer to accelerate your delivery of miners. They'll offer you a bunch of things. It's definitely not us. So just please be careful. Yes. Question about listing on exchanges. So the listing will happen when we go live. So the process is we close the pre-sale, we launch our chain, we list within days. I'm not sure the timescale that it takes to go from going live on the chain to actually listing, but that's a short period. As we've stated, we hope to be on 10 exchanges. We would love to have a tier 1 exchange in there as well. That's certainly our goal. If it's not a tier 1 up front, we hope to have one within a couple of months after that. And I think I mentioned previously, we've got 4 exchanges that have approved us, and we're working on that fairly actively now. And the date of that is linked to our launch, which is, as I've confirmed in the past, it's this year.
There's a few questions related to NFTs, and I think obviously we're working on a number of projects, various solutions such as launch pads, and that will obviously facilitate non-fungible tokens and the like. So for those of you that are asking a number of those questions, when are there NFTs and such, look out for obviously mainnet launch. And a number of those services will certainly be available for you to be able to mint NFTs and the like. So yeah, it's part and parcel of any major project that there are NFT offerings. So yes.
Okay. There was a question on the progress from a tech perspective. So last AMA we had Jeremy. He spoke a bit more around the testnet launch. The fact that we're having a testnet is testament to the fact that the tech is progressing well. So we've got the blockchain, and then we've got the apps that are built on top of the blockchain, and we treat them slightly separately. Blockchain is going well. We've got this launch, then the next testnet launch, and we haven't got a date for it yet, but that's quite a significant one for us. what's happening is currently our chain supports UTXO and EVM accounts. I won't go into the detail, but it's two sort of different ways of keeping tabs of what people hold in their wallet. And for various reasons, we're consolidating that. So we're busy removing UTXO. It's quite a big job. So the next one will include a version of our chain without UTXO, which is quite substantial. And then there can be other things in that core chain that change as well. So that's quite a big one for us. In parallel to all of this, we're working on our DeFi roadmap. Between Nick and Robert, you met Robert, I think, on the last presentation. So they're going to be updating the roadmap on the website, so you'll see more of that. And then we're also starting to work on a launch pad as well, which will allow you to create your tokens and promote them as well. So more details will come out over the next weeks.
Just picking up here on a few questions centered around what happened to the Inter Milan sponsorship. I'm not too sure if you were on earlier, but announced that we actually have the first of a number of individuals that are going to be attending one of the big derby matches. And then there is a series of further events that lucky individuals are going to be participating at. So look out next week where there will be proper photography, excuse me, of the event. So I'll make sure that we share that within the social channels and also through communication.
Okay, great. So again, there's a question on staking. So there's two parts to staking. The first one is pre-launch, which is not really, or let me call it pseudo staking, because I did get into trouble from some media publication who said I was getting confused between staking and proof of work. So let me be clear. It's pseudo staking. It's not staking for the network itself or for consensus. There's staking pre-launch, which happens effectively on our systems, where we load you up and you elect to stake for a certain period. And then there's staking when your token gets locked into a smart contract, technically on our network, and that's a different phase. You don't necessarily need to know the two as separate, because when you stake in the beforehand, we'll make sure it sort of carries through. So just to summarize that, we will introduce staking before the launch, probably 2 or 3 months, and then you will be able to obviously hold through the launch and post the launch, and we need to still confirm with everyone the APYs on that as well. Circulating supply at launch. Based on the vesting that I've now presented, we're looking at closer to 10%. So that's basically 15 billion, which is a very nice number. We're happy that it's good to keep that low, and obviously over time that'll grow as the vesting happens, but 10% at launch roughly. Question on the first exchange to launch. So typically with exchanges, they would all want to launch at the same time or very close. I'm not sure who would be first necessarily. We haven't gone into those sort of details, but we would probably time it so that they all happen at the same time. I think that's quite important for us. There's a question again on, well, can you help me convincing my friends that BDAG is superior to Casper? Love the question. We are planning to be superior. We're planning to be different. So in our own way, we will be superior, but that's only because we'll be offering EVM. Over time, we hope to close the gap in terms of their transactions per second versus ours. Bearing in mind we are behind, so they've had quite a bit of time. They've done a lot more development. They've got a good team, so certainly we've got our work cut out for us. But yeah, that's our target, is to get close to Casper, to be better them and in our own way. So yeah, that's our stated target, and they're a very, very good adversary to go after. Lots of questions on the 200 to 1 conversion. So in a way, I was avoiding that. And again, I think what you'll see with us is we're making more and more of an effort to be transparent and open where we can. So this is me doing just that. The tap miner has created an issue in terms of the sheer volume of tokens that we've dished out. It's our mistake. We need to deal with it. And there were different potential solutions to that. One is a change in the exchange rate. There were a couple of other potential ways we can do it. There's the vesting schedule as well, which comes into it. We're looking at all of those. Our preference isn't to make a change to the conversion rate. As I said, it's our preference not to do that. But we do need to consider all the options. We need to also look at the long-term viability of the project and the number of coins that have been allocated through the tap miner. I think also the reality is, for a lot of people, they've tapped a lot of coins for a bit of effort and probably no cost or very little cost. And we're more than happy for people to earn our token for effort and for engagement, etc. But there's a point where we say we've actually given away far too much. It is our mistake, so that's on us. So we do need to look at all the potential solutions for that. So as I said again, as our preference isn't to relook at that, and we will confirm that as we confirm the other question around the vesting on the tap miner and a shorter vesting period. Again, quite a few questions. Launch date. I think you can piece together probably reasonably well, but it's this year. Our plan is to go to Token 2049 in Singapore, having launched already. So that's our plan, because we want to be launched by the time we get there, and we don't necessarily want to launch at a bad time of summer vacations in Europe. So that gives you a window to consider. We do wish to announce that date as soon as we can, but it's more around the technical readiness. Sooner the better, but we need to be technically ready. So there's some outstanding discussions needed on our side before we can start firming up on a date. Nick, anything you're seeing there?
No, just I think there's obviously a lot of other questions that we can consolidate and feedback through normal comms channels. So I'm going to take that into consideration now that I've seen all the various questions for the first time, and I think it's obviously paramount that we get to feedback on what the community is asking. So yes.
Okay. There is a question here, and maybe it's just a misunderstanding. Why are investors forced to get test tokens? Can they not just use the faucet? From our side, it's important that we start testing the launch process. There's a few moving parts. We need to make sure it's secure. We need to test the process on large numbers. So this is a good first test for us. If you're not interested, you don't need to know about it. You don't need to worry about it. If you don't connect your wallet, you'll never know about it. So we're not expecting anything from you. If you're interested, come on and have a look, see what watch the tokens as they vest. So it's completely optional. So don't feel pressure that you have to do anything. Just to mention again on the conversion rate, it might be that in order to get coins sooner, we then look at a different conversion rate. So and that's why I'm not being entirely specific on the conversion rate, because we might offer a different conversion rate for early vesting of those tokens. So those are the sort of things that we're considering.
There's I thought I'd just answer this quickly. There seems to be a few questions pertaining, I don't know if it's me not reading the moderation, but some questions pertaining to giveaway winners. If you do reach out through to support, if there's anything outstanding from that point of view, we've got a very good support system. So just log a query. I'm sure it will get to me through the support function. So yeah, if there is anything outstanding from any competition that I've certainly initiated over the last month, I'll certainly pick that up and deal with it directly if you reach out through support. So please do so.
Yeah, just to mention on the support side, I mean, I have mentioned we've moved over to Freshdesk. I think it's the right thing to do, but it has been a difficult change because prior to that, everything was email based. We tried to bring them in, but that became quite a mess because there was a large backlog of emails and old emails, etc. So it wasn't the best process we went through. I think we've sort of dealt with most of the backlog, so things will start picking up and getting better. We're also trying to bring one or two more people onto that team as well, so we can handle it quicker. But it's also optimized or facilitated better handovers between the support team and the tech team and the back-end payments team, and then also the third-party payment provider that we also use. But in terms of the time it takes to solve the payment issues, it tends to be our payment provider. Not that it's an excuse, because ultimately we're responsible, but just to explain that when an issue comes through, we depending on the type of it, we often have to pass it through to the third party. They have to trace things, and it's not always as cut and dry as yes or no or right or wrong, etc. So if you can bear with us, we are quite snowed under, but things will get better as I say, we're bringing on new people as well.
I just want to pick up here on a few questions. I'm not too sure the context, but we haven't had our TGE yet. So any token that has been represented as BDAG or BlockDAG coin on any of the wallets or exchanges at this point in time are certainly not a real token. And I guess, Anthony, I think that seems to be a recurring question. Is this token on this exchange legitimate? Is this the case? If I'm seeing, a BDAG token in my MetaMask wallet or on Uniswap or what have you, it cannot be. We haven't. It is still synthetic in its pre-sale. So just so you know, to the community, it still sits within your back office on your linked wallet, and then the whole point of a TGE is a token generating event, would mean that then those tokens are airdropped to your wallet at that particular point in time. And then obviously, just so you know, any exchange listing therefore facilitates the liquidity and the ability to be able to trade those tokens officially post that event. So any of those questions relating to, token, is this, that legit? Obviously they aren't, because we haven't had our TGE yet. So yeah, thank you for that question.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. There's just a question on the
sorry.
on the last one. Just someone, 2 or 3 people have asked, do I need to reactivate my X1 repeatedly to get the X10 to keep on mining? And that is, yes, you will have to. It is an engagement miner. It can't just mine on its own, otherwise it sort of defeats the whole purpose of even calling it something like that, in which case we would call it something else. So you need to engage once a day. It's not a big ask, and for that you do get rewarded for that. There are a lot more questions. What we will try and do is collate some of them, and now that I've got Nick here and we can look at all these initiatives, we'll try and go out with some sort of FAQ which covers obviously frequently asked questions, which will cover some of these that we haven't got to. There are a lot of questions here. We're not ignoring you for any reason, except that there are lots, and there are a lot of repeated ones as well.
Absolutely. I think, just to commit to post this, that we put an FAQ together on, the non-repeated questions, and I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think, Nick, if you're happy, shall we
I'm happy.
close off? So, yeah, I mean, from my side, thanks to Nick for joining me. It's always great to have someone else on the call, and especially when he's got lots of enthusiasm and excitement for our project. So, yeah, Nick, great to have you on. Thanks to everyone very much for joining us. We had, I think, we hit probably 800 people, which is fantastic. And yeah, we're going to try and do more of these. We're going to try and do more of the technical sessions as well. Nick's got a bunch of things, obviously, that's again going to also bring us to make us more public more frequently. So yeah, you might start getting bored of our voices, but I think that's a good problem to have. So from my side, thanks very much, everyone, and great having you here.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time. Thanks. Have a great evening or morning, wherever you may be.
Cheers. Bye-bye, everyone.